A desperate magnate watches his daughter receive a terminal diagnosis and a cruel deadline. 7 days to live. In the silence of the house, an unknown boy appears with a simple cake and an unexpected request. Make your last wish. What seemed like a farewell becomes the beginning of an inexplicable change, where faith and affection defy logic. Robert Blackwood stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Westchester County mansion, watching autumn leaves spiral down onto the pristine lawn. The sprawling estate, once filled with laughter, had fallen silent over the past year. His vast fortune, built through decades of shrewd investments and ruthless business tactics, now seemed worthless against his daughter's diagnosis. "Mr. Blackwood?" Dr. Harrison's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "We should discuss Lily's situation." Robert turned, his shoulders stiff. "Just tell me what else we can try." The specialist adjusted her glasses, her expression grave. "I'm afraid we've exhausted all options. The Mayo Clinic results confirm what Johns Hopkins found. The paralysis from this condition is progressing faster than anticipated." "There must be something," Robert insisted, his voice breaking slightly. "Some experimental treatment, some specialist somewhere. We've consulted with every specialist across 3 continents, the gene therapy in Switzerland, the stem cell treatments in Japan. Nothing has slowed the progression." She hesitated. "Mr. Blackwood, I think it's time to focus on Lily's comfort. Based on her latest tests, we're looking at approximately 7 days. The words hit Robert like physical blows. 7 days. His 13-year-old daughter, his only family since losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, had just 7 days left. "Does she know?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "She asked me directly. Lily is remarkably perceptive. I couldn't lie to her." Robert nodded stiffly, dismissing the doctor with a gesture. Alone, he allowed himself a moment of weakness, pressing his palms against his eyes. Upstairs, Lily Blackwood sat in her wheelchair by the window, her once active body now unresponsive below the neck. Her blonde hair was neatly braided, and her blue eyes, so like her mother's, remained bright despite everything. "Dad?" she called as Robert entered. "You don't have to pretend. I know what Dr. Harrison told you." Robert knelt beside her wheelchair, taking her small hand in his. "Lily Flower, I promise I won't stop fighting. There has to be—" "It's okay," she interrupted, her voice steady despite her 13 years. "I'm not scared. I just want to spend time with you. Real time, not watching you on phone calls with doctors or flying me to different hospitals." Her maturity shattered him. What had he been doing? Throwing money at the problem, exhausting every medical avenue, but how present had he truly been? That afternoon, as Robert worked in his home office, making calls to research foundations, offering blank checks for last-minute trials, movement in the garden caught his attention. Through the window, he spotted a boy, perhaps 12 or 13, walking barefoot across the lawn. The security system should have alerted him to any intruder, but somehow this child had appeared as if from nowhere. The boy carried something small in his hands. Robert watched, perplexed, as the child approached Lily's window. He rushed from his office, instructing the housekeeper to call security as he hurried outside. By the time Robert reached the garden, the boy was standing beneath Lily's window. He was thin, wearing jeans and a faded blue t-shirt despite the October chill. In his hands was a small cake with 2 candles. "Who are you?" Robert demanded. "How did you get past security?" The boy turned, his expression serene. "My name is Sam. I brought something for Lily." "How do you know my daughter?" Robert asked, suspicious and protective. Before Sam could answer, Lily's voice called from above. "Dad, it's okay. I can see him from my window." Robert looked up to see Lily watching them, her face animated for the first time in weeks. Sam gazed up at Lily. "I brought you a cake," he called. "For your last wish." Robert stiffened at the directness, but Lily's response was immediate. "I wish to live longer than 7 days." For a moment, the garden seemed unnaturally still. Birds paused mid-song. Leaves hung suspended in the air. Sam smiled and nodded solemnly. "What is this?" Robert demanded, reaching for the boy, but Sam stepped back, his movements fluid and unhurried. "Some things can't be bought, Mr. Blackwood," he said quietly. "Not with all your billions. But that doesn't mean they can't be given freely." Before Robert could respond, Sam turned and walked toward the wooded area at the edge of the property, disappearing among the trees. Robert called after him, then ran to where he'd vanished, but found no trace of the boy. When he returned to the house, bewildered and unsettled, Robert was shocked to hear something he hadn't heard in months: Lily's laughter, drifting down from her bedroom. The following morning, Robert woke to an unusual sound, Lily calling for him, not in distress but with energy he hadn't heard in months. He rushed to her room, finding her propped against her pillows, color in her cheeks. "Dad, I'm hungry," she announced. "Really hungry. Can we have pancakes?" Stunned, Robert placed a hand on her forehead. "You feel okay, no pain?" "Better than yesterday," she said. "And I want to go to the garden today." Robert called Dr. Harrison immediately. The physician arrived within the hour, conducting thorough examinations with poorly concealed surprise. "There's a marginal improvement in her neural responses," she admitted, reviewing the portable monitoring equipment. "Her breathing is stronger, and her blood work shows unexpected stabilization." "What does it mean?" Robert demanded. Dr. Harrison shook her head. "Medically speaking, this doesn't change the diagnosis. We sometimes see temporary rallies before—" She trailed off. "But let's appreciate this moment for what it is." After the doctor left, Robert took Lily to the garden as promised. Their housekeeper, Martha, helped arrange blankets in Lily's wheelchair as they settled near the rose beds. "The boy who was here yesterday," Lily said suddenly. "Did you find him?" "No," Robert admitted. "Security checked the cameras. There's nothing. No record of anyone entering or leaving during that time period." Lily smiled mysteriously. "He'll come back." That night, Robert made calls to every security company in the tri-state area. He doubled the guards, installed additional cameras, and demanded explanations for the surveillance gap. Yet despite his preparations, the boy appeared again 3 days later, once again materializing in the garden as if from thin air. Robert was reviewing medical files when Martha burst into his office. "Sir, he's back, the boy!" Robert rushed outside. Sam stood near Lily's favorite maple tree, this time empty-handed. Lily was already there in her wheelchair, Martha hovering nervously nearby. "How did you get in here?" Robert demanded, signaling security guards who were approaching from different directions. Sam regarded him calmly. "Your security isn't the problem, Mr. Blackwood. The real question is why you're missing what matters." "Dad, don't," Lily called. "Sam's been telling me about his life. He lives with his grandmother in the village, but she's very sick too." Robert glanced between them, calculating. Was this some elaborate scheme? A con targeting a wealthy man with a vulnerable daughter? "Mr. Blackwood," Sam said, "you've spent millions trying to buy a miracle. You've missed countless moments with Lily because you were always searching for the next treatment, the next specialist. When was the last time you just sat with her and watched the clouds? Or read her favorite book? Or remembered how she likes her hot chocolate with 3 marshmallows? Never 2 or 4? Robert recoiled as if struck. How did this stranger know such intimate details? "I'm taking care of my daughter the best way I know how," he defended. "By being absent, by treating her like a problem to solve instead of a person to love." Sam's words were delivered without anger, yet cut deeper than any business rival's barbs ever had. Security personnel surrounded them now. "Sir, should we remove him?" one asked. Robert hesitated, seeing Lily's pleading expression. "No, let him stay." Over the following days, Lily's condition continued to improve incrementally. She regained slight movement in her fingers. Her appetite returned. Dr. Harrison documented everything with clinical detachment, calling it statistically improbable, but not impossible. Sam visited daily, somehow bypassing all security measures. He brought nothing except conversation, games, and an inexplicable peace that seemed to follow him. Robert watched from windows and doorways as the boy and Lily laughed together, their heads bent over board games that Lily could now participate in with her partially recovered hands. On the 7th day, the day Lily had been predicted to succumb, Robert found himself sitting beside Dr. Harrison as she reviewed the latest test results. "I've sent these to 3 colleagues," she said, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "There's noticeable regeneration in areas previously showing degeneration. It's not a recovery, but it's unprecedented." That evening, Robert found Sam alone on the garden bench. The boy looked up as he approached. "You think I'm running some kind of scam?" Sam said matter-of-factly. "You've had your investigators looking into me, but they haven't found anything, have they?" Robert stiffened. How did you know that? Sam smiled. Because I'm not what you think. I'm just someone who cares about Lily. What do you want from us? Nothing that can be bought, Sam replied. Then, looking directly at Robert, he added, I can help Lily more permanently. I'm a perfect match for her. A match? What are you talking about? My kidney, Sam said simply. I want to donate one to Lily. Robert stared at Sam, certain he had misheard. That's impossible. Lily's condition affects her entire neurological system. A kidney transplant wouldn't... Her condition originated in her kidneys, Sam interrupted. The toxin buildup is what's causing the neural damage. Her doctors know this, but they've never found a viable donor match. Her tissue type is extremely rare. Robert's mind raced. The boy was right. Lily's condition had indeed begun with kidney failure, leading to the accumulation of neurotoxins that conventional dialysis couldn't filter. But how could this child possibly know such details? That's protected medical information, Robert said, his suspicion deepening. Who are you really working for? Sam sighed. I understand your doubt. Take me to any hospital. Run the tests. You'll see I'm a perfect match. 3 days later, they sat in Dr. Peterson's office at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. The transplant specialist looked between the lab results and Sam with undisguised astonishment. In my 27 years of practice, I've never seen compatibility markers this perfect outside of identical twins, she said. It's as if, she trailed off, shaking her head. Robert leaned forward. As if what, doctor? As if the donor was custom-made for the recipient, she finished quietly. Hope and suspicion warred within Robert. So this could work? A transplant could reverse Lily's condition? Theoretically, yes. Removing the source of toxicity could allow her nervous system to heal over time. But, Dr. Peterson looked at Sam with concern. There are serious ethical considerations. He's a minor. We need parental consent, psychological evaluations, ethics, committee approval. My grandmother will sign, Sam said calmly. She raised me after my parents died in an accident when I was 3. Robert arranged for his lawyers to locate Sam's grandmother the next day. They found her in a modest apartment in Queens, frail, elderly Margaret Wilson, who seemed unsurprised by their visit. Sam told me you'd be coming, she said, inviting them into her sparsely furnished living room. He's always been special, knowing things before they happen, sensing when people need help. She smiled sadly. I won't be here much longer myself. The cancer's spread too far. My only worry was what would happen to Sam after I'm gone. Robert listened, increasingly uncertain. The old woman appeared genuine, her documentation for Sam in order. When presented with the transplant papers, she signed without hesitation. He wants to do this, she said. Sam has always followed his heart. I've learned not to question his certainty. Even with her consent, the hospital's ethics committee raised objections. Robert found himself in an emergency hearing 2 days later, facing skeptical medical professionals. The compatibility is too perfect, argued Dr. Westfield, the committee chair. We need to investigate possible genetic manipulation or coercion. For the first time in his career, Robert found himself without leverage. His billions couldn't sway medical ethics. As the debate continued, the double doors opened and Lily entered in her wheelchair, now able to move it slightly herself with her improving hand strength. Please, she addressed the committee, her voice small but steady. Sam is my friend. He came when I needed someone most. I was ready to die and he gave me hope. Her eyes, so like her mother's, swept the room. You're all talking about him like he's not real, or like he's some kind of experiment, but he's just Sam. From the corner of his eye, Robert noticed Sam slipping him a folded paper. Opening it discreetly, he found a letter written in Lily's handwriting, expressing her wishes should anything happen during the procedure. The note's existence stunned him. He hadn't known Lily had written such a document. More surprising was the final line. Dad, even if I don't make it, please take care of Sam. He needs a family, too. Looking up, Robert locked eyes with Sam, who nodded slightly. In that moment, something shifted in Robert's understanding. This boy, whoever he was, truly cared about Lily. Rising to address the committee, Robert spoke, not as a billionaire accustomed to getting his way, but as a father. My daughter is dying. Medical science has failed her. Every specialist, every treatment, every dollar I've thrown at this problem has failed her. Now, against all odds, there's hope. Are we really going to let bureaucracy stand in the way? Doctor. Harrison, who had been observing silently, stood as well. I've documented Lily's improvement since Sam entered her life. It defies medical explanation. I can't scientifically endorse what's happening, but as her physician, I believe this chance is better than the certainty we faced 2 weeks ago. After hours of deliberation, the committee conditionally approved the procedure, with unprecedented monitoring requirements. As they left the hospital, Robert found himself walking beside Sam. "Why are you doing this?" he asked quietly. "Because some things matter more than others," Sam replied simply. "Lily matters. You matter." "You could die during this procedure," Robert said bluntly. "Do you understand that?" Sam nodded. "I understand better than you think." Back at the mansion, preparations began for the surgery scheduled 3 days later. Medical equipment was delivered, a recovery suite prepared. Through it all, Robert observed Sam's interaction with Lily, their easy laughter, their private jokes, the way they communicated sometimes without words. The night before the surgery, Robert found them in the garden. Lily was teaching Sam to identify constellations, a hobby she'd shared with her mother. "The Big Dipper isn't actually a constellation," she was explaining. "It's an asterism, part of Ursa Major." "The Great Bear," Sam nodded, "and there's Cassiopeia, the Queen." Robert cleared his throat. "It's getting cold out here. You both need rest before tomorrow." As they headed inside, Robert impulsively reached out, placing a hand on Sam's shoulder. "Thank you," he said, the words feeling wholly inadequate. Sam smiled. "We're not finished yet, Mr. Blackwood. Not by a long shot." Dawn broke over the Blackwood estate as medical staff arrived to prepare for the procedures. Robert had spared no expense, converting the East Wing into a state-of-the-art surgical suite. If the hospital wouldn't accommodate their timeline, he'd bring the hospital to them, with every approval and certification required. Lily was calm, as nurses prepared her, attaching monitors and starting IVs. "Where's Sam?" she kept asking. "In the next room," Robert assured her. "Everything's going according to plan." But something troubled him, a suspicion he couldn't shake. Making an excuse to check on preparations, he instead slipped away to his study and placed a call to his head of security. "I need to know if you've found anything at all on the boy." "Sir, we've exhausted every resource," came the reply. "Birth certificates, school records, medical history, they all check out, but..." "But what?" "There's an emptiness to it all. The records exist, but there are no personal connections. No friends who remember him, no teachers with stories, no social media presence. It's as if he's lived a perfectly documented but completely isolated life." Robert hung up, his unease growing. Making a decision, he took the private elevator to Sam's room. The boy was alone, already dressed in a hospital gown, sitting cross-legged on the bed with his eyes closed. "Who are you really?" Robert demanded without preamble. Sam opened his eyes. "You still don't trust what's happening? You appear out of nowhere. Security cameras can't track you. You're a perfect tissue match for my daughter with a medically impossible condition. And now you're offering to sacrifice part of yourself for her." Robert's voice rose. "Is this some elaborate scheme to get to my money? Because if it is—" "Mr. Blackwood," Sam interrupted gently, "I understand your fear. But has it occurred to you that sometimes extraordinary things happen simply because they need to?" "That's not an answer." Sam regarded him thoughtfully. "What would convince you? I could tell you things about your wife, about the promises you made to her before she died, about the regrets that keep you awake at night. But that wouldn't help you understand." Robert felt the blood drain from his face. "How could you possibly know about—" "Instead," Sam continued, "I'll make you an offer. If you're so certain this is about money, offer me some, right now. See what happens." After a moment's hesitation, Robert pulled out his checkbook and wrote a figure with 7 zeros. "Take this and disappear," he said, extending the check. "No questions asked." Sam didn't even glance at the amount. If I wanted your money, Mr. Blackwood, I would have asked for it when I first arrived. He smiled sadly. You've spent your life believing everything has a price. But Lily understood from the beginning what's really happening here. A nurse knocked, announcing it was time. Sam slid off the bed, leaving the check untouched. Some gifts can only be given freely, Mr. Blackwood. That's what makes them precious. The procedures began simultaneously in adjoining rooms. Robert paced between them, watching monitors, questioning surgeons, demanding updates. 4 hours in, alarms suddenly blared from Lily's room. Her pressure's dropping, a surgeon called. We're losing her. Robert froze, watching the monitors flatline, hearing the controlled urgency of medical professionals fighting to stabilize his daughter. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as they worked, injections, adjustments, whispered consultations. And then miraculously a heartbeat weak. At first, then stronger. She's back, someone announced, and the room collectively exhaled. In the adjacent room, Sam's procedure continued without complication. By evening, both patients were in recovery, sedated but stable. Robert sat between their rooms, exhausted, moving from one bedside to the other. Lily woke first, groggy but alert enough to ask about Sam. He's fine, Robert assured her. Everything went perfectly. When Sam woke hours later, his first words were also about Lily. Did it work? We won't know for certain for several days, Robert said. But initial blood work is promising. The surgeons got everything they needed from you. Sam smiled weakly. I knew it would be okay. Over the following weeks, Lily's recovery exceeded all expectations. The toxins cleared from her system, and neural function began returning, first to her hands, then her arms, eventually her legs. Dr. Harrison documented everything, already preparing papers for medical journals about this unprecedented case of neural regeneration. Sam's recovery was equally smooth. Though Robert noticed something curious, the boy seemed to grow stronger as Lily did, as if their recoveries were synchronized. 6 weeks after the surgery, Lily took her first unaided steps across the living room, causing Martha to drop a tray of teacups in astonishment. By week 8, she was walking short distances unassisted, though still requiring rest afterward. Through it all, Sam remained, transitioning from patient to guest to something more. When news came that his grandmother had passed peacefully in her sleep, Robert found himself offering what he never expected to. You should stay here. With us permanently, the boy looked up, his eyes somehow ancient and young simultaneously. Are you sure? Lily needs you, Robert said, then corrected himself. We need you. That evening, Robert found them in the garden, bundled against the December chill, Sam teaching Lily a clapping game he claimed to have invented. 1 for hope, 2 for faith, 3 for love that cannot wait, they chanted, their hands meeting in complicated patterns. Watching them, Robert realized what had been nagging at him. Throughout Sam's time with them, through hospital visits and consultations, not once had any doctor or nurse commented on the boy's own physical condition, which, now that he considered it, had been remarkably robust for someone who had just undergone major surgery. Later, when Lily had gone to bed, Robert approached Sam on the terrace. There's something I need to ask you, he began carefully. Sam looked up at the stars. You want to know if the surgery was real? The direct question startled Robert. Was it? What matters more, Sam asked, the method or the miracle? Spring arrived, bringing with it Lily's 14th birthday. The mansion, once a mausoleum of quiet desperation, now overflowed with laughter and movement. The wheelchair that had once been her prison now sat in a corner of the garden, transformed into a planter overflowing with vibrant flowers. Dad, hurry! Lily called from the lawn, where she and Sam were setting up for her party. The guests will be here soon. Robert watched from the terrace, still marveling at the sight of his daughter running across the grass. Her recovery had continued to baffle medical experts. Dr. Harrison had presented the case at 3 international conferences, where skeptical colleagues suggested misdiagnosis, spontaneous remission, or experimental treatments administered without documentation. Only Robert knew the truth, or rather, knew that he didn't truly understand what had happened. His rational mind still struggled with the impossibility of it all, but his heart had long since surrendered to gratitude. Sam had integrated seamlessly into their lives. He now attended the same private school as Lily, where he excelled academically and quickly became popular for his quiet kindness and uncanny ability to be present whenever someone needed help. Teachers described him as unusually empathetic and wise beyond his years. At home, he moved through their lives with gentle purpose, teaching them forgotten lessons, how to truly listen to one another, how to find joy in simple moments, how to give without expectation. Robert had legally adopted him 3 months after his grandmother's passing, a process that had proceeded with unusual smoothness despite Robert's attorney's warnings about potential complications. The birthday party was small but lively. Classmates, neighbors, medical staff who had become friends. As Robert grilled hamburgers, a skill he'd insisted on learning despite the chef's horror, he overheard Lily explaining to a curious classmate. "Sam's my brother now," she said simply. "Not by blood, but by choice." That evening, after guests had departed, Robert found Sam alone in the library, carefully placing Lily's gifts on shelves. "You've changed our lives," Robert said quietly. "I've never properly thanked you." Sam smiled. "You gave me a home, Mr. Blackwood. That's thanks enough." "Robert," he corrected. "Or Dad, if you'd prefer. You're family now." Sam nodded, accepting this. "There's something I need to tell you." "About who I am?" Robert's heart quickened. "I'm listening." "You've suspected all along that there's something different about me." "You're right." Sam carefully placed a snow globe on the shelf. "I can't explain it in ways that would satisfy your logical mind. But I can tell you that there are forces in this world beyond what we can measure or prove. Sometimes when someone needs help desperately enough, those forces respond." "Are you saying you're some kind of—" Robert couldn't finish the question. "I'm saying that love is the most powerful force in the universe," Sam replied. "More powerful than disease, more enduring than doubt, more transformative than fear." He looked directly at Robert. "You loved Lily enough to move mountains for her. But you needed to remember how to just be with her, to value presence over progress." Robert swallowed hard. "The kidney transplant, was that real?" Sam's smile deepened. "Everything that happened was real, Robert. Just not always in the ways you think." That night, Robert found himself unable to sleep. He wandered to his office, where he kept a private journal, something he'd started at Sam's suggestion. Opening it, he began to write. "A year ago, I believed in what I could control, measure, and buy. I lived in a world where problems had solutions, where enough money and power could fix anything. Then my daughter was dying, and suddenly none of it mattered. I don't know who or what Sam really is. Perhaps he's exactly what he appears to be, an extraordinary child with an extraordinary capacity for love. Perhaps he's something else entirely, something I lack the vocabulary to name. What I know is this. He taught me that my greatest asset was never my wealth but my capacity to care, to be present, to surrender to love even when it makes no logical sense. Today, as I watched Lily blow out her candles on a birthday the doctors said she would never see, I understood that the true miracle wasn't her healing. The true miracle was our transformation." He closed the journal, feeling a peace he hadn't known since before his wife's illness. Making his way upstairs, he paused at Sam's room, finding the door slightly ajar. Inside, the boy knelt by his bed in what appeared to be prayer, a small candle burning on his nightstand. Robert was about to continue to his room when he heard Sam whisper, "Thank you for letting me stay. Thank you for giving me a family." The simple gratitude in those words stopped Robert in his tracks. All this time, he had seen Sam as the giver, himself as the recipient. But perhaps the boy had received something equally precious: belonging, connection home. The following morning, as they ate breakfast together on the terrace, Lily announced her idea for a new tradition. "I want to celebrate my 2nd birthday next month," she declared. The day Sam came with the cake. "We could call it Miracle Day." "That's a wonderful idea," Robert agreed. "How should we celebrate?" "Pizza, games, and staying up late watching movies," Lily decided. "And we should each share one thing we're grateful for from the past year." Sam smiled. "I'd like that." Later, as Lily showed Sam how to properly serve in tennis on their newly installed court, Robert received a call from Dr. Harrison. "I've been offered a research position to study Lily's case," she said. "They want to investigate the possibility of neural regeneration in similar conditions." "Take it," Robert said without hesitation. Use my foundation for additional funding. If Lily's experience can help others, that's what matters. That evening, the three of them walked together through the garden, passing the flower-filled wheelchair, admiring the treehouse they'd built together over the winter. "Dad," Lily said suddenly, "are you still sad sometimes?" "About before?" Robert considered his answer carefully. "I'm not sad about what happened. I'm grateful for where it led us. But sometimes I regret how long it took me to understand what really matters." Sam squeezed his hand. "Understanding is a journey, not a destination." As twilight deepened around them, Lily pointed to the first star appearing in the evening sky. "Make a wish," she prompted. Robert closed his eyes briefly, then opened them to look at his children, the daughter he'd almost lost, and the son who had appeared like an answer to an unspoken prayer. "No need," he said softly. "I already have everything I could wish for." They walked back toward the house where lights glowed welcomingly from windows, not as three separate individuals, but as a family, connected not by circumstance or biology, but by the most powerful force of all, love freely given, with no expectation of return.